Rounds of winter storms this week with blizzard potential by the end of February. Welcome in, everybody, on this Super Bowl Sunday. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest notifications because we've got a lot to talk about, and you're going to want to stay up to date as we continue through this very active pattern. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to talk about a time frame towards the end of February I'm watching where we could potentially see blizzard conditions through parts of the country. But before we even get there, we've got big snow on the way just this week and through this weekend. So comment, let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how much snow or ice you saw from yesterday's storm. Again, that's really just the start of this very active pattern. And we're going to continue to kind of get those reports in and see how that forecast did. And then we'll kind of use that to maybe help us in the future with these next couple of storms. Alrighty, let's go and dive right on into the data and get started here. Next to me, this is the latest run of our GFS computer model for just this week. And you can see just that kind of winter storm train working across the lower 48. The eastern half of the country, folks, I mean, what a soaker of a week it's going to be. Now, that could be a soaker from rain or snow or ice, depending on where you're watching from. And that's what we're going to break on down in today's video. But again, the big point to take home here is it's not just one storm this week. It's really kind of three storms just this week. And then by the time we get to next week, more storminess potentially. And again, when I say storminess, that could be a snowstorm. That could be even severe weather potentially. It could be a little bit of anything on the table with this very active pattern. Now, right now, kind of in a little bit of a lull here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll kind of see moving away. This is our storm system from yesterday. Again, kind of now working on out of here, but still some back-end precipitation working through portions of New England, seeing a little bit more snow this morning. But the bigger thing I want you to know is kind of look at this line of clouds from the Pacific all the way right through the heart of the country and into kind of the Northeast. This is that boundary setting up where on the north side, we've got this very cold Arctic air. And on the southern side, it really feels like spring. We've had spring fever. We've had kind of record highs being broken through parts of the deep south. In fact, to the Carolinas, Alabama, I know states in and around those areas saw record highs last week. Even in Charlotte, where I'm recording from, we saw, I think, a record high last Tuesday, I want to say, is whenever we saw that. So it has felt very warm. And this kind of clashing of these boundaries, that's what's fueling these storm systems, folks. And that's why I think later towards kind of the 20th, the 25th of February, we could be running blizzard potential. This boundary is only going to continue to strengthen as we see this snowpack be laid. And that could really strengthen up a big storm as we enter a more favorable time frame later on. And we'll definitely talk about that. But like I said, before we get there, we've got ongoing kind of winter weather to discuss this week. Now, right now, just want to show you this very quickly. Not a whole lot going on across really any of the lower 48. You can see a little bit of leftover snow in the Northeast. And out west, it's quiet as well. I didn't pull up the map, but we'll talk about out west in today's video. Now, this afternoon, maybe a couple of showers down here near Tennessee, down into the Little Rock area, potentially northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. It could even sneak into the Carolinas by overnight tonight. You'll see this little shortwave fire off a surface low pressure. So don't be surprised if overnight tonight we've got some showers in the upstate of South Carolina, the western areas of North Carolina, even getting into Charlotte, Columbia, Raleigh. You can see that little system. And this has the potential on the northern side of it to produce a little bit of snow or ice along the Virginia-North Carolina line. I don't think it'll be a big deal, but just, watch out for that overnight tonight. We could definitely see a little bit of some mixing concerns there, but overall, just kind of a cold rain for most of us, and that kind of pulls on out of here and sets up the stage for our next storm system. Really by Tuesday is when that one will begin to crank up. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. Now, before we kind of get right on down into the one specific storm, I just want to show you the overall pattern here. This is our jet stream. So this is well up in the atmosphere. In fact, let me bring it down a little bit. That's a little high. So this is 300 millibars. This is basically right where our jet stream lies. And you can kind of see the way it's oriented this afternoon. We've got this very strong zonal flow. That tells me the cold air trapped up here and the warmer air to the south. And yeah, guess what? That's basically exactly what it looks like on the surface. So checks out for sure. Now, as we go through this week, what's going to happen here with the jet is we're going to leave this kind of zonal flow, and we're going to become a little bit more meridional in nature, just meaning it gets a lot curvier. Check this out. By Tuesday afternoon, we've got a big dip in the jet back out into the desert southwest, and then look at the boundary associated with that dip getting all the way up into the Ohio Valley. And this is when that active storm track is going to begin right along kind of this enhanced area of the jet stream. And that's going to lead to a very active overrunning type pattern by Tuesday. And that will lead to, again, that winter weather that we're going to talk about and we've been talking about for quite some time. The other thing I want to let you know, though, is that's not changing, folks. Check this out. This goes all the way through later this week into this weekend and then all the way through next week. I mean, this very meridional flow, again, kind of this curvy shape to the jet stream, it continues. Check this out. By next Monday, we've got a big dip, this time in the east, this likely bringing a shot of cold air and the potential behind it for a bigger winter storm as we get more energy and more big dips in the jet to kind of follow to end out February. So just again, showing that to let you know the pattern is not over by any means. We've got a long way to go before we kind of get on out of this very active stretch of weather. Now, let's go ahead and dive a little bit more specifically into the upcoming storm. This would be really especially Tuesday. The overall setup here is we've got this piece of energy and kind of this wave of energy really out west. You can kind of see this is by Monday evening. Notice this area of enhanced vorticity or enhanced lift that we're seeing. And that's going to move east along that boundary, and that's going to lead to some snow, some ice, and some rain right here through the heart of the eastern half of the country, and it just keeps on coming, folks. This is by Wednesday afternoon. We've got plenty of lift, plenty of precipitation probably falling at that point, and then another pronounced trough by Thursday and Friday. This one going to cause its own sorts of issues. This is overnight Thursday into Friday, another big area of energy. This is going to be what I'm calling kind of the Valentine storm or Winter Storm Cupid. We can call it that if you want. That likely to cause some big problems the day before Valentine's Day and even into the morning of the 14th potentially. So that's kind of what we're watching for this week. That's the more short term into the medium term. So let's kind of show you what this could look like on radar. Here's the latest run of our GFS forecasting model. I think doing a pretty good job. This is tomorrow morning. Again, that little area of maybe a slight mix of some wintry precipitation, but mainly rain into North Carolina and southern Virginia. The real show, though, beginning back west towards Oklahoma, Kansas, and then even into Missouri by the time we get on into Monday afternoon and into Monday evening. Notice that snow beginning to blossom over Missouri, Kansas. This will probably include St. Louis, even potentially down closer towards the Ozarks, into central Illinois, central Indiana, moving eastbound. And by Tuesday morning, we've got a big swath of snow through the northern half of Kentucky, including Louisville into Cincinnati, Charleston, West Virginia, back into Virginia itself, and even some light snow kind of overrunning here into Kansas, southern Missouri. And I mean, this turns into a big snowstorm for our friends in Virginia through the Delmarva, the DMV, and just kind of this big swath of snow, again, from Kentucky all the way out through Delaware, and then tries to sneak north a little bit here. This would be overnight Tuesday into Philadelphia, the Jersey Shore, maybe Long Island. It'll be interesting, folks. How far north can this get? Just a small shift north could bring a pretty good little winter weather event into areas of the coastal Northeast and coastal New England. Right now, though, Virginia, the Delmarva, into the DMV, I think is the real hotspot to be with this storm. And then if you're not getting the snow, folks, you're getting just, unfortunately, a very cold rain for most of us down into the Western Carolinas, at least outside of the mountains. Now, you will notice here some pink showing up. Areas like Boone, up into maybe even the Triad of North Carolina, watching an ice threat out of this system. That kind of freezing line, it's going to wiggle north and south kind of through the week. So you could be rain one moment and then switch to a bit of a wintry mix, then back to rain with these very marginally cold temperatures. Again, they're into kind of the mountains of North Carolina and even into the northern foothills of North Carolina and southern Virginia. We are watching that ice threat. Again, this is kind of storm number one, kind of fizzles a little bit by Wednesday, but notice behind it another burst of energy back over Kansas, into Missouri, Iowa, another winter storm. Bringing some pretty good snow, and once more, heavy rain to the south. Not something that's been talked a lot about, at least on my channel. I probably should mention it more. We could definitely see a flooding threat next week down here in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, potentially the Western Carolinas. A lot of heavy rain, rounds of it, over this coming week, and that could cause problems. eventually as you get a little bit too much of it. Now, this is the evening of Wednesday. I kind of see a bimodal setup here. We've got snow into Chicago, Indiana, up through Michigan, Wisconsin, and then an ice storm breaking out into the foothills of Virginia as we've got this strong high pressure leading to pretty potent cold air damming back through the backside of the Appalachia chain. That could cause problems, and then this moves up through the Northeast, and we get just a kind of a messy winter storm. We could start as snow for a lot of folks, this being overnight Wednesday, then changing to ice by Thursday morning, and then by Thursday afternoon, we could be back to rain along the I-95, maybe snow continuing into the interior, and then we kind of clear out and we get a little bit of a lull, I think, by Friday of this coming week. But before we get there, obviously, we've got to get through these two storms. So a real mess there on the GFS model. I'll show you the European as well. I'm going to breeze through it a little bit more, a little less in depth, because honestly, folks, they're pretty similar. But I will point out some key differences between the two. So here's the European. We'll start this again, kind of similar on the start of the first storm. Now, one key difference with the first storm on the European and its ensembles in general is a little bit further north. So this gets Philadelphia, Baltimore, New Jersey a little bit more in play with the Tuesday storm than maybe the GFS does. And also with that limits the snow down here into southern Virginia and kind of that icing threat into the foothills of North Carolina. Less of a big deal on the European. I think the reality probably is somewhere in between if we're going to kind of, be real with ourselves here. That's normally how these things go. But we'll keep on moving it ahead. Again, you can see that further north track. That gets New York City in on the fun. Northern Jersey, even up towards Scranton, getting some light snow. And then even through coastal sections of New England. Connecticut, Rhode Island seeing some snow out of that. Also gets that rain line a lot further north in Virginia because of this storm being further north in general. You can see a lot more green instead of blue down here comparatively to the GFS, what we just looked at not long ago. Now, we'll keep on moving it ahead. That's the first storm. Second storm, I mean, a real, a big one on the European here. We've got a lot of snow in Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa. This being Wednesday morning, heavy rain to the south. Again, that flooding threat could become very real. And this storm cranks up and moves to the northeast, folks, and it's a nice swath of snow through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. And then we've got that icing threat into the kind of higher terrains and the usual cold air damming suspect areas there of the mid-Atlantic. And becomes snowstorm into the interior northeast, rain for I-95. Again, just kind of a messy look there. And then the storm gets out of here in time for Valentine's Day itself. So obviously we can look at all the models. What does it mean? Well, let's talk about the first storm and then we'll take a look at the second one in terms of totals. Now, here's the ice forecast from the GFS model. I mean, folks, GFS is still going very big on a big ice potential down here into southeast Virginia through Blacksburg into the Boone area of North Carolina, and even just north of Greensboro and High Point up here towards Danville. These are high totals. I mean, this is a quarter of an inch, a half an inch, even up near an inch in places. If that were to happen, this would be impossible travel and high power outage likelihood in this region. It's just one model, though. I show you the European. It's there, but it's in a little bit of a different area. So let me go back. Sorry, this is the GFS. You can kind of see that cluster there. The European, a little bit further up into the mountains, so we still have an icing threat and a big one. Again, this could be a big ice storm for you folks down here into Blacksburg, and then it does get down into Boone and even down towards the Asheville area, but not as bad for Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, up towards Danville. A little less of a kind of significant icing event. The Canadian, a little bit closer to the GFS, but honestly, kind of an in-between between the two here, and just showing that big ice potential. So either way, we need to watch for ice. Do not let that potential slip by you. If you're in this area, could become a big problem by the time we get into later this week, or really early this week, by about the Tuesday timeframe. Need to watch this storm system. Again, could cause big problems in the kind of icy conditions. Now, what about snow? Also going to be, a pretty good snowstorm for somebody. The GFS going for half a foot to a foot of snow into central Virginia. Obviously, that would be a big storm. That gets into the Delmarva with about 6 to 8 inches. DC running about 6 inches. Baltimore about 4. And then Philly only about 1 or 2 inches. As you see, that northern extent only gets about up to southern Jersey. Then, don't forget my friends out here into Kentucky and West Virginia. Nice little swath of snow for you as well from our Tuesday winter storm. Now, again, that's just the GFS. What about some other models? The European, lower on the totals and further north. So more of a kind of 2 to 4 inch event in Philly. Gets about half a foot in DC. and then even tries to get some snow up into coastal sections of New England. You can see kind of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Long Island even trying to get in on some of the fun here. So it's gonna be quite the battle between the models here. I'll tell you, the GFS has held very steady on this further south solution. The Canadian here, and by the way, ignore this snow up here. That's from overnight. Just the model is still including it for whatever reason. But the Canadian kind of an in between, I would say, kind of getting a little bit of both areas there. The Icon from this morning, I believe, yeah, kind of similar to the GFS here. We'll look at the NAM model, the NAM a little bit closer to the European. So we're going to kind of have to watch it. We're going to have to wait and see. But either way, I think somebody, whoever's in the swath of heaviest snow, I'm probably going to get 6 to 8 inches out of this one. Would not surprise me at all. All right, let's move into the second storm now. Now, into the kind of central plains here. The first storm will bring some snow, but probably not a lot of it. It's the second storm, the Wednesday timeframe, that I think will bring bigger totals. So taking a look here at some ensembles, let me move it actually to the European ensembles. I mean, folks, this is a big signal for snow into Kansas, Missouri. We're already talking just in the ensembles, a mean of nearly half a foot in some places. With widespread kind of 3 to 5 inches through much of Kansas and Missouri, even up into southern Iowa, southern Nebraska. And you can see the fringe of this even trying to get down into northern Oklahoma. I was live last night. Somebody asked about Tulsa. Yeah, Tulsa kind of on the edge here of potential wintry mischief. And we take a look at the GFS ensembles. I mean, folks, it's even more excited. Higher end totals, but kind of through the same swath. So you get the idea on who has the best chance of snow out here by the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe of this week, and again, could be a good storm. Now, we'll move it up towards the north and east here into the Midwest. Again, we'll show you the European ensembles. Pretty good looking event here for you folks as well. Nice swath of a couple of inches of snow. Somebody in here could get half a foot, I think is not out of the question. The northern extent of this getting up into Michigan, southern Wisconsin. Chicago has not had a very, exciting winter. This could finally be a more appreciable snowfall event for you. St. Louis could get some snow out of this. Bloomington, Springfield, Illinois, definitely some areas that could see some good snow. GFS ensembles, pretty similar, just higher end totals back into Missouri. And you can see that swath of snow right into here, getting up into Chicago, back up towards Flint, Michigan. So a nice swath of that shield of snow looking pretty likely here from the models. Now the Northeast. So a lot of this, again, kind of, let's see, we're gonna have to move this to probably 24-hour snowfall. Okay, sorry. We're gonna do this on the fly here and get this to work a little bit better. All right, that'll work. Okay. Sorry about that. Gonna kind of fix that on the fly. So as for the ensembles here, here's the European. This one, I think the weekend storm. Again, this is not the first storm. This is the, I say weekend storm. It's kind of Thursday, Friday storm. So second half of this work week. Bigger storm for actually Canada and the interior. I-95, I would be skeptical of a lot of anything on this. This looks like a real messy event, kind of snow to ice to rain. Now, areas further north, like Boston, maybe you get a little bit more snow. But if you're down south into Baltimore, D.C., Philadelphia, wouldn't expect a whole lot out of the weekend storm of significant proportions. Now, you could see winter weather still, but you're really going to want to be kind of New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island, northbound to have a real chance at anything. And then for the higher end totals, I'm going to want to be up in the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, then up through Maine for higher end snowfall potential out of that storm. Now, here's the next thing we need to talk about. Next week kind of thing. So obviously we've got this week coming up. The one after, that's when I'm watching the pattern to really kind of lock in for a more significant storm. Now, these storms are going to be a problem, obviously. But when I say significant, I mean, further down in the millibars, we're talking 980, 990, something a little bit stronger than 1,000 to really kick up the wind, kick up that advection, kick up those precipitation rates, and potentially bring maybe even blizzard conditions. And that's what we're going to talk about now in this section of the video to kind of end things out. All right, so these are the European ensembles for Friday afternoon of this coming week. And the pattern here, we've got a ridge in the south that's kind of bringing that warm air northward. That's why our storm is kind of cutting inland, as we say. So it's kind of moving through the Midwest and right through the Northeast, kind of along this track. And then we're going to get a little bit of a lull, I think, by kind of the Friday time frame. So if we back it up, this is really when we're getting that storm track actually right in here. And you can see the track basically perfect with where these air masses are clashing, kind of something like that. So, the math checks out there, as I like to say. Then we get a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a warm up by Friday, and then another storm system. Check out this trough kind of swinging on through, a well-pronounced trough. kind of digging down south here by the weekend. This would be Saturday into Sunday. That pushes east. That's going to bring its own storm. And you'll notice the pattern looks a lot more favorable here as cold air begins to spill in the east, into the east. And then behind it, we get another trough right around the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd time frame. And that's when I think we could get a bigger storm of maybe bigger kind of proportions here. So what does it look like right now on the models? Well, I'll go ahead and show you this. This is the energy map from the European. We'll kind of skip ahead here. So here comes the Friday time frame. Again, at this point, here's our energy in the east. But look what's happening out west. A big piece of energy. That becomes kind of the Saturday into Sunday storm system. That's a lot more of a pronounced trough. That's going to be a bigger storm, probably, more precipitation, kind of stronger winds, all that good stuff by that time frame. And then look at this. We go into, again, not this week, the one after, an even stronger trough digging further south. And this one, folks, this one would be a real doozy. I mean, that is a strong vortex. That would lead to very strong cyclogenesis at the surface. So it looks very active even after this week. Again, it's not slowing down anytime soon. I'll give you a little sneak peek ahead into time. Again, this is not a forecast, just showing you the potential for what this pattern could bring in about 10 days or so. Here is the Friday time frame, or this is Thursday, really. Again, there's the Valentine's storm I was telling you about. Again, the day before Valentine's Day, I get it, but close enough, right? Now, behind it, here comes that first big storm of the weekend. Kind of the Saturday, Sunday storm starts out west, brings plenty of mountain snow, valley rain, coastal rain, works into the Rockies, big snowstorm for the Rockies, and then gets east here and we get a big storm. And look at this one, a lot stronger, 993 millibars. This would have a pretty potent severe weather threat into Dixie Alley, a big snow threat up to the north, and then kind of a heavy rain, flooding threat in between. This only a week from now, so not that far away. You can see that one could cause big problems, then brings that injection of cold air behind it. And then after that, and also right here, heck, talk about blizzard potential, right here it does it. I mean, right off the coast of Maine, a big bomb cyclone deepening here. This would be, again, about a week from now, not a forecast, just looking at model data here. And then it comes that next piece of energy, and this one does the same thing, bombs out, and this would be a big blizzard for somewhere in the east central part of the country, big severe weather threat, just a real nightmare of a storm. This one would be in the kind of February 20th time frame. So obviously, far out there, nothing set in stone. But definitely looking at the potential. Now, what about snow? Who's going to get snow? Well, this is the European Ensemble projection for snow. Here's Friday. Again, look at all that snow out west into the Rockies. A lot of it then pushes east for the Saturday, Sunday storm. Big signal into the northeast, specifically the interior, but areas a little bit further south could get in on the fun. We'll wait and see. And then that other strong storm about 10 days from now, also showing a signal here in the east for potential active snow. And one final thing I'll show you that I'm going to pull up on the fly here. Let's look at kind of severe weather potential. Sorry, I kind of froze up there. So this could be another concern. Watching this into this coming weekend, yeah, look at that kind of increase in instability down here into the deep south. This would be Saturday, Sunday. We get a little bit of a break and then another kind of increase by the middle of next week. So we need to watch the winter weather side of things. We need to watch the snow side of things, the ice side of things. I mean, boy, oh boy, what a crazy month February has been so far and looks to continue that way in the long range. Alrighty, folks, again, if you enjoyed the video and you haven't already, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Getting pretty close to 36,000 subscribers. So kind of crazy to say that out loud, but it is a real thing and a real number. Also, we'll not have a video tomorrow morning. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon and or evening. Sometime during the second half of tomorrow, I'll have a video, but will not in the morning. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you. Stay safe, stay warm. I'll see you all next time.